So my position here is that I've worked for 25 years as a loss prevention or operations senior manager in some large UK retailers, and I've joined Axis hopefully to give them an insight into how retailers think and what creates the ideal retail solution. So I'm hoping that you'll find this interesting. I'm going to give you some insights into our survey. One second. I'm going to give you some insights into our survey and how that works. I'll be discussing what the current thinking is in retail and what they're telling us they want from their solutions, and then talking about how we then, as a channel and a team, build our engagement with them and create a joint approach to make sure that we can give them the right surveillance solution and some really good value-added benefits for the future. So each year, Axis reaches out to over 2,000 Northern European retailers to ask them about their experience of network video and how we can support them. And the interesting thing is that we always get around a 30% response rate, which is pretty good for a survey, believe it or not. And that covers around 40,000 stores across Northern Europe. So it's a good representative survey. And the share there is around 60% food and 40% non-food, which again is typical of the high street. And we talk about the impact on them and what solutions they favour and who the key stakeholders are in retail. In other words, who we need to get the message across to. So it won't surprise you that there's still a good shift towards network video from analogue, although 65% of retailers are still using analogue. We now have around 35% that in some way have adopted network video. Now, taking some of the larger retailers, although they would be in the category of adopting network video, if you look at a retailer, for example, like Boots the Chemist or Marks and Spencer's, they would still have around 70–75% of their estate to convert. So the market opportunity is huge. When we look at retailers who have 100 stores or more, they are the main drivers for this change, but as I say, their estates are not fully converted, and less so with the small store solutions. So Axis is working on some small store solutions, which we hope to bring to you in the channel to make it a lot easier for you to create a network solution and a network argument for your smaller retail customers. The biggest challenge remains for retailers crime and organised crime in particular. So the ORC means organised retail crime, and they're seeing a rise in that, which in their sort of high street stores, they're saying that around 23% of their loss experience is now related to organised retail crime, and that's an increase over the last 5 years of nearly double. They're also saying that wherever CCTV is fitted, whether it's analogue or network video, that they see, or 85% of the people who have invested in CCTV see a reduction in their losses. And some of those reductions are quite large, from anything up to 10%, which 32% of retailers said their losses fell by up to 10%. 33% are saying they fell up as much as a fifth. So we really do see that there is a place for network video to create some value for a retailer. They also tell us that they're planning to adopt network video. 54% of retailers within the survey are saying that they have plans to convert from analogue to network. Now, this is quite an interesting slide, not so much because of the numbers, but the truth is, when they say they're planning to install network video, there isn't really a plan, which is the problem, and this is where we can support them. What they mean by plan is that they're thinking about it and they know they need to really give it a close looking at, but they don't know how to create a plan with their IT teams and their operations teams and their integrators to make this happen efficiently and get the best value from it. So I think this, although this slide is very positive in terms of people's emotions, they know where they want to go and they know they want to take on network video, what it's really telling us is that there isn't actually a proper plan in place, and we're doing something about that at Axis, and we can do it with the integrators and our channel partners, and we'll talk about that in a moment. When we look at who specifies CCTV systems, this is important because these are our stakeholders. These are people who we need to make contact with. And it's still the loss prevention or profit protection teams in the main that do this, although IT departments are getting more and more involved in specification, and this is a good thing and something that we all need to work towards improving, making sure that we have those key contacts in that area. So what are the obstacles to adopting network video? The biggest one still remains that there is no clear business case. And from our point of view, I believe that that's something that we can influence by making people understand what a good system looks like, what a fit-for-purpose system looks like, and how they can get value from it. And again, we'll talk about the way we do this slightly later. Another key area is that 26% of retailers don't have the right buy-in or collaboration from their IT departments. And again, I think this is perhaps where they're not communicating effectively internally, and we're not helping the loss prevention people to get the message across and them understand more about network video and the technical and bandwidth elements of network video. Interestingly, 14% of our integrators, our partners, are still not confident enough to recommend network video. So that's another area that we can help. When you ask loss prevention and operations people in retail organisations why they think network video will have a benefit for them, they talk about integration with BI apps, in other words, creating shopper insights and other business intelligence. They talk a lot about getting remote access and being able to look at their stores from regional and central locations. And we're also now seeing a real increase in their understanding that this can reduce the cost of total ownership over the 5 or 10 years that this system is live. One of the things that will drive us forward is making sure as much of the smart capability of network video, whether it be analytics or storage or image retrieval, making sure as much of this is done in the camera. And as you all know, Axis work very hard at this, and our ACAP solutions are, I think, as good as anybody's in the market, if not better, and we will continue to drive to make sure that ACAP solutions are available. And you'll all know that we've got ADP Day booked in both in the UK on the 24th of November and across in London on the 26th of November to show you how that capability, how we're working with our partners to do that. And of course I will be there, so anybody who's got a retail interest, I'll be really interested in speaking to you and talking to you with our partners to give you a really clear understanding of what's available. We also see a real change in the landscape for small footprint stores. And this is because we've got better recording, better onboard recording. Storage in the camera again is a massive element, and we're working hard, and we'll shortly be announcing some really good solutions for the high street for 2016, where these are low cost budgeted kits that are very easy to fit, very easy to understand, and in the right price bracket for smaller systems. And I think particularly across the Nordics, this will be a really big opportunity for us. Most retailers are now looking to view their video centrally or have remote access. This is not only to make real-time decisions about standards and layouts of stores and the look of stores, but it's also to be able to do things like investigate incidents, get live reports if there's an accident in store. All these kind of things can be done through remote access, and we've even got retailers now doing live audits of the shop floor through network video. And this is a really big cost-saving opportunity, and particularly when you have, you know, the UK is very, very compact, but some areas, as we know, of Northern Europe are not. So the opportunity for people from Stockholm, as an example, to look at stores in Gothenburg, etc., etc., is a really big cost saving for them, and again, something we're going to drive to support. Cloud-based solutions are also high on the agenda. Again, when we look back at the slide that talked about IT collaboration, I think wherever we can present a solution to somebody that doesn't require a server or some additional hardware, not only from a cost point of view, but from a support point of view, this is always welcomed by retailers. There's always a worry in IT departments that too many PCs and too much to look after distracts their attention from the main business critical areas, things like the tills and all the other things that may break down and spoil the customer experience and affect their sales. So the more that we can do that is cloud-based, the better. One of the really key areas where they can drive value from the solution is to combine network video with around point of sale fraud and staff theft. This is still a major area, and even in some of the countries where we have heightened privacy laws and a heightened sort of awareness of an inability to monitor staff. In the UK, this is very easy as long as we tell people that network video is there, then that's fine. In some countries, it's not quite the same, but there are still good ways of making sure that we can combat crime, and this is a big element. And when we go back to the internal theft slide, they're still saying that at least a quarter, maybe as much of a third of their loss is through staff crime. So network video rather, integrated with internal data mining and fraud analytics is very high on the agenda. And again, we've got a number of partners who we're working with to increase these solutions. When we talk about video now as a revenue enabler, we need to be a little bit careful because analytics will not run the business for them. And sometimes our analytics partners present their solutions as being the answer to everything, and we need to manage expectations, and we need to make sure that these solutions work for the retailer. The solutions people are most interested in are, for example, queue management, people counting, heat maps, dwell time, and out of stock alerts. The stock alerts business application is very interesting. With the increase in RFID tagging and what we call real-time inventory checks through smart tags, this linked with video can be very, very successful in allowing people to understand when they have stock discrepancies, how those discrepancies occurred, and whether they were due to some administrative error in store or an event in store. And that will grow, and it will be very effective. The other areas are not really a big surprise to us. Things like heat maps, as an example, are interesting to me because although they look very nice and there's nice pretty colours on there, we've got to be very careful about what that is actually telling our stores and our retail partners. What we are with this new drive towards business intelligence is that network video now more than ever has a part to play in the planning of not only our loss prevention teams but also our merchandising teams, our operations and regional management teams and our marketing teams, and the plan needs to be supported by our IT colleagues in retail. So how do we work out an approach? The first thing is, and it's very important for Axis, that we become trusted in this space, and from a product point of view and a brand recognition point of view, Axis is a very trusted brand. We are not the cheapest, we never will be the cheapest, but when we create a value proposition for people, price is less important. And it's important that people know that when you install network video, you're not just installing it for a year or 2 years or even 5 years. It's a bigger and longer investment with than that. And it's important we're not frightened of giving that message that quality is important. And as trusted advisors, what we then do is work with our integrators, our end users, and our solutions partners to create the right solution for that particular retailer. And it's got to be a joint effort. There is no point in approaching a retailer just with an analytics package, or just with a VMS solution, or just with a nice 4K camera, unless the whole thing fits together and creates value and solves their problem. It's worthless. So how do we become trusted advisors? Well, we work from a position of being service-based, i.e. we have some boxes and they may want cameras, and we have them on the shelf and they can get them themselves, to discussing their needs for them and just allowing them to decide, to actually then creating a relationship where there's recommendations and a good insight of each other's capabilities, to a real trusted base where we're in continual engagement with our end users and talking to them about their operation and the way developments in network video can support them and reduce their exposure to loss or increase their profits. We do this by not taking brochures into them, by not talking to them about product and how fabulous an algorithm is in a facial recognition analytic. We talk to them about what their problems are. Essentially, any business solution is provided to create a situation where a challenge is met or a problem is solved, and network video is no different. So we would say to the retailer, what is your problem? And if their problem is organised retail crime, then it may be a good, solid surveillance solution they need. If they don't have a huge problem with loss, but they want to understand more about their customers and that insight, it may be a solution that involves 360-degree hemispheric cameras and customer analytics. But unless we actually talk to them about what they want to achieve, we will never create the right solution. We will just have some nice technical products and be able to present them to them, but that will be meaningless to them. We need to understand exactly what they want to achieve from their system. When we do that, that creates their value proposition. They can then see from their point of view how they can get a return on that investment. What they also need to do is look at the way their stores operate and what their current operating model is, and that could be anything from their current IT network architecture to the way their staff work, to how well educated and how well trained their staff are, whether they have their own loss prevention and security teams, whether they don't. And it's only when you understand all that that you can start then to present a truly workable solution. And these are some of the areas where we can get a return on investment. And it's important as part of that conversation to talk to them in the really early stages about this and allow them to come up with the ideas. I'll give you one example where Boots the Chemist decided from a loss prevention point of view that they wanted to get network coverage of 90% of their shop floor to reduce theft and give them a good understanding of how theft occurred and be able to retrieve images to support the police and get prosecution. In actual fact, what they found when they did this was their biggest return on investment was in the reduction of accident claims and claims against the business for trips and slips and accidents in store, when they were able to fully investigate them and realise that these accidents were not as initially reported by the customer. So that's one thing that perhaps we wouldn't have necessarily thought was an outcome. So allow the retailer to shape that message and that argument. We should be able to create a safer environment. We definitely should be able to reduce shrinkage, and 85% of retailers are saying that that is the case. We can give them cross-functional solutions and business intelligence, even if that is only around remote access and then being able to view images in store and communicate with store management in a visual way. And we can also help them reduce the total cost of ownership by working with their IT teams and making sure that our work is not duplicated with other network solutions that are going on in the retail space at the same time. They're just 4 areas. And how do we do this? Well, if you look at the drawing on the left, many of you will recognize that as a copy of the sort of tube or railway map. People are quite familiar with this. And we're also very familiar with how confusing it can be if you've seen it for the first time. So that illustration is deliberately fairly confusing. And what the point we're trying to make here is that all these things, intruder alerts, loss prevention applications, customer behavior analytics, space planning tools, labour planning information and queue management, heat mapping, age and gender, remote access, facial recognition, all these things exist, point of sale fraud, all the opportunity to support the business in these areas all exist. But what we need to do is understand initially what the priorities for our end user are and not guess what they are. Have a proper discussion with them and make sure they realise that we are trusted advisors and that we are fully engaged and that we are interested in a solution, not just selling a camera. So we've been running workshops with our end users and our integrators very successfully to show them what a good solution will look like. And we do it in two ways. The first thing we do is we say, what is fit for purpose? What is a fit for purpose network video solution? What does that look like for your particular retailer? And we go through a series of issues. For example, do you want to capture a good quality image at entrance and exit? Yes, tick. Do you want to see? Do you want to be able to see tender and note identification in the tills? If that is the case, then we would say yes. Do they want to have some kind of system that allows them for out-of-hours deliveries when the shops are unmanned to be able to monitor those solutions? Do they want to have a hosted system so that people can actually only gain entry through that hosted channel and with network verification? Are they having problems with out-of-hours burglary and crime? Do they want a solution that alerts them as if it was an intruder alarm and give them network video? So we would go through all those areas and talk to them about their stores and the way they operate and what they would like that to look like. And then we have the basis for a surveillance solution. Then when we have the basis for a surveillance solution, we then take them on to the next part of the exercise, which is around talking about what their business currently looks like, whether they are changing in the way they operate. For example, we all know that Apple Pay is very popular now. We also know that you're able to go in some stores now, you're able to go and select a product, check out on your mobile phone without even going to a till. Does that mean that they want better surveillance across all of the shop floor to support that and ensure that that risk isn't minimised? So that's just an example where you would create a discussion around what their business looks like and what they need to do. And we've done this really successfully with some very high-profile retailers. And as a result, we're now working with 8 out of the top 10 retailers across Europe. And we're working with around 20 of the top 50 retailers across Europe. We're specified in those areas. So we are successful in retail, but we can be even better. But what it does show is that it isn't always just about price. It's about creating the right solution that works for you. Once we've done that, what we would also do, and make sure we create this engagement and trusted advisor, we create with them what we're calling a medium-term plan, which is a 3 or 3. We're creating a quarterly update for them. So once every 3 months, we will give them an update on new products and new parts of the solution. And this is something that we've just started to introduce this year. But of course, working with the integrators to do this, this then creates us and you in their eyes as trusted advisors. And why would you change integrator and why would you change product when so much work is done on your behalf to make sure your solution's up to date? It's been really good to speak to everybody today. I hope you can see that from an Axis point of view in retail, we've got considerable expertise, we've got some great products, and we've now got a really good strategic approach to make sure that we can engage with retailers about their business and not just about our solutions. And when we bring the two of those things together, we have a really, really effective message for them that creates value for them and keeps them well informed and keeps them absolutely in the place they need to be to satisfy their business that the decision that they make around network videos are the right decisions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Let's see if we have any questions now. We have one question, Andy.
Yeah.
It's Pia is asking, do you have template for questions for retailers?
We certainly can do that. What we, in terms of the fit for purpose and fit for future workshops that we do, we don't ask a list of standard questions, but I certainly have a presentation that I can give to you, Christian, that you can then translate and give to your partners and the people who attend the webinar without a problem, to give them an idea of how to approach the conversations. But of course, one of the options as well is to include us and me within that discussion. That's that's an open invitation to our partners. But yeah, I can certainly make sure that you get that, Christian, and you can push it out to whoever's interested.
Excellent. Any more questions? Yes, we got one. How many retailers want to change their operations to combine the analytics into everyday use?
Well, the survey was telling us that around 39% of retailers were looking at business analytics as an important part of their decision. What we see typically is that most retailers are very interested in business analytics, but I think what we need to do is we need to better validate what works for them. But I would say the important thing about network video is to make sure that we have the right balance between a good surveillance solution and a capability to deliver business intelligence. And the reason I say this, and this is why the fit for future part is, we can guess to a degree, but we don't always know what's going to be available and what's going to be important over the next 5 years for a retailer. So we need to make sure as best we can we future-proof their investment. But I would say, in my experience, every retailer I sit down and talk about, even if they don't fully understand it, they are interested in being kept informed about business intelligence and business analytics. And what we will be doing is making sure our message goes beyond the loss prevention teams so that the marketing teams and their operations teams understand the capability of network video. But I would say most retailers are interested in this and looking to combine it.
Yes, and the fact is that for a security manager, collaboration with marketing is always useful because marketing has bigger budgets. They have more money to spend.
Yeah, of course, and I think the collaboration with marketing is important, and as we mentioned in the presentation, if we can make sure that analytics are performed within the camera at the edge, then again from an IT point of view, it's a lot easier to create a plan to include analytics within your solution if you don't need an extra server and an extra PC and all the headaches that can bring.
Yeah. We have another question here. How many retailers are looking for Visa's solutions? Do they know already about these solutions?
What we're seeing within retails from a VSaaS point of view is that there is still some, should we say, they're still a little bit cautious around the cloud. Again, I think this is because they see some elements, a potential for it to not be as secure as they would like it to be, and they want a better understanding of that, and we need to engage with them. But we have an awful lot of retailers now who are looking at cloud-based and hosted solutions, video surveillance as a service. is growing hugely. We've got some really good examples of it in the Nordics, some really good examples, and we've got some great operations centres out there that are working with retailers. We have less of them in the UK, but that's starting to grow. But I think the opportunity for technology to replace manpower through that kind of hosted service will always be on the horizon and on the agenda, and as soon as they believe it's safe and efficient and cost effective, and we need to work with our partners to get this message across, I believe it's a very attractive solution for retailers.
Good. Any other questions? Okay. There's an can you see the question, Andy?
No, I can't see any question. No, sorry. Oh, hang on a sec.
Let's see. I think you answered that question already.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Any other ones?
Excellent.
Let's give them 30 seconds.
Yeah, of course. Age and gender detection. We have one. So yeah, age and gender is very important. We are increasingly getting an indication from retailers that age and gender is probably the most important analytic that they're looking towards, particularly in fashion retail. So less so obviously from food retailers who perhaps understand or believe they understand a little bit more about their customer because they often have loyalty schemes and these kind of things. Certainly for fashion retailers, they're very interested in age and gender and how their behaviour changes in store. They're also interested in things like colour, which again we can get from analytics. So we have a fashion retailer who's asked us to work on a colour analytic. So for example, they can tell whether women between the age of 18 and 30, as an example, are wearing specific colours in summer and specific colours in autumn, and making sure that they're meeting the needs of their customer, things like that. But age and gender is very, very high on their agenda, and what that helps them with, of course, is not only understanding their customer better and making sure, particularly with clothing, that their designs fit their customer. They're also looking to find out whether they're converting the right amount of people between certain age groups. So if a retailer typically would expect to sell to men between the age of 20 and 30, and they know from their customer loyalty cards and from their video analytics that there are people in that age group dropping out, or there are older people visiting store in sufficient numbers that are not being catered for by their sales, then clearly they can make a big decision around that. So age and gender analytics is there. At the moment we've got some proof of concept trials on ACAP solutions for age and gender that are working well. We have Cognimatics, who many of you would know, who are developing, although it's still in testing, an effective way of addressing this, and we've also got a number of other partners looking at it. So I think that will be a big area for them and an opportunity to sell through.
Good.
Yep.
Anyone, any other questions? For those who come from Finland, I want to do some marketing here. We have next Tuesday a web course in analytics. So if you are interested in retail analytics, please join. It's finished. A 1-hour course. Otherwise, if there are no other questions, I would like to thank you, Andy, for this excellent presentation, and you guys who took the time on watching this. I hope it was very useful for you. And hope to see you next Friday when we have Andrea Sori, who is going to give most probably a most interesting presentation about a safe city, or how you can actually survive in a city in a nice and careful way. Next Friday at 9 o'clock again. Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy your day and have a nice weekend. See you next Friday. Bye-bye.